all old. Okay, I'm going to call us back to session. We no longer have a quorum, and so therefore we can't vote on anything, but we can do two things that are on the agenda, item 7 and item 8. Let's start with item 7, reports from city staff, APD.
Good evening, Vice Chair Fine and members of the board. I'm Commander Mark Velarde with the Albuquerque Police Department Internal Affairs Professional Standards Division. So for the month of September, Albuquerque police officers responded to 41,491 calls for service, which is a decrease of 2,309 from the previous month. During the month of September, we closed out 37 cases. We completed 37 cases. We opened 11. We have 26 pending investigations. 11 of those were administratively closed, and we sent out 90 EIS alerts.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody else from APD? Looks like there is.
Good evening. I'm Commander Rob Middleton, and I'm with the Internal Affairs Force Division with APD. For the month of September, and I know you asked a question last month, and I'll answer that too. For the month of September, the Foothills Area Command had 11 uses of force. Northeast had 9, Northwest had 4, Southeast had 12, Southwest had 5, and Valley had 10. And Vice Chair Fine, I know last month you asked why was there a spike in the Southeast Area Command for uses of force. It went from 16 in July to 27 in August. Our program data analyst looked at the data to find out why, or was this an anomaly or what happened. But in the Southeast, from July to August, there was 203 more CAD calls. And there were also 40 more incidents that tend to result in uses of force. I'm not saying that each one did, but we have calls like disturbance, suspicious person, family dispute, aggravated assault battery calls, and on-site suspicious persons. Those increased by 40 in the month of September. And we stopped there because there was an increase in CAD calls and an increase in those types of calls. And that may be why there was a spike. Would
those number increases include the fair happening?
It could include several things, like the TAC plan going on in September.
Okay.
And I can't tell you, on this date, from this call, it resulted in use of force, and that was a result of that 27. But the state fair could be a contributing factor.
And you also, by the TAC plan, you mean that with the state police and that whole thing?
I'm speaking of Albuquerque police only. I don't track state police.
Well, I just wondered if there's a trend and we're looking at something, but thank you for looking. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Yes.
So you mentioned that there are certain types of calls that result in the use of force, or more likely to result in the use of force.
Yes.
Could you just sort of give off the top of your head what are the?
It's those that I just mentioned. So disturbance calls, those are more likely to result in uses of force. Suspicious person, family dispute, aggravated assault battery, and on-site suspicious persons.
And could you give just a guess as to how frequent, what percentage of those result in a use of force? I mean, is it 1% or
I'm not going to guess, but I can give you that. I can give you that fact next time.
Okay. All right. I mean, I'm just curious as a ballpark. I mean, is it?
I can provide that for you next time.
Okay. All right. I won't thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else have any questions?
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thanks.
City Council. Anybody from City Council?
Madam Chair?
Oh, duh. Hello.
Madam Chair, board members, the selection committee in the council office has a candidate to move forward for the vacancy on the board. The gentleman was here earlier this evening to observe the meeting, and after the outreach committee meets with him, I think we will move forward with appointment, assuming everything goes well. Board Member Olivas, in regards to the emails out to the applicants for the CPCs, this week I went through and separated all the emails by area commands, and we'll be sending out the email, if not tomorrow, early next week. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
I just want to notice the board and the public that my term, my ability to serve ends in February, is it? At the
Yes.
February meeting or the March meeting?
Madam Chair, the expiration of your term would be February 5th.
Okay,
But
so
by
that-
ordinance, you can continue to serve until a replacement is appointed, or you can
Okay,
cease
so I
to-
gave notice to the council that obviously I can't serve anymore, so I will be gone. So there you go. So you have to look for somebody else now. There you
We will do
go.
that, Madam Chair.
Okay, anybody from the mayor's office? Sorry to keep you waiting, sir.
Oh, you're okay. Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, it's always a pleasure being here. Thank you for the work that you do. I'm here tonight, this is Steve Aguilar, Albuquerque City Attorney, speaking on behalf of the administration. And I specifically want to address the comments that were made in the editorial and really dovetail on some of the comments that Director Harness had made as well. To be clear, that the administration and the Albuquerque Police Department understand that a fully functional Force Review Board is a critical component of the compliance process, and they're treating that obligation very seriously. The department is making and has been making every effort to get the board functioning and up and operational as soon as possible. That being said, they are taking the time to make sure it is done the right way. As Director Harness had mentioned, the prior practice and the prior board did not function. It was rushed. It failed. The Dr. Ginger had advised and explained that it failed and asked the city to revamp it, which is what the department has done. Again, though, it is equally important that this process is done right. And while it may take a little longer, in the end, it'll save a lot of taxpayer money. And having the board function as it should is really the key component that the department is really ensuring is done correctly. And this is not a unilateral approach. As the board knows, the department has worked very carefully with all of the members of the community, and specifically the advocates and the shareholders in this process. Understand and appreciate, not only have they been with us step by step or side by side during this process, they're fully supportive of the get it right and do it right approach. And so that's, to be clear, that's where we're at. APD is, as the board knows also, APD has developed and has made changes to the policy development process that involves input from members of the community, including stakeholders and advocates. And while that process is bureaucratic and can be frustrating at times and slow it down, it really is important that is an important tool to get in that input and to really help build it into the policies before they are developed and implemented. Regarding some of the specific details, it is simply inaccurate and wrong to say that the department is not and has not been reviewing officer-involved shootings, as this board knows. The multi-agency task force, including APD, or the Albuquerque Police Department, the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, the State Police, and the District Attorney's Office review every shooting. The DA's office issues declination letters as the completion of the investigations are done. Those letters are public record. Notice is always provided following an incident within 12 hours of an event under paragraph 320 of the CASA. And in fact, the monitoring team and the department received praise in IMR 9 for the operations of the multi-agency task force, which is in full operational compliance under the CASA. A couple of critical things or key takeaways from some of the changes to the multi-agency task force process is now APD assigns members from the Violent Crimes Division. And those members on that multi-agency task force only review shootings, in custody deaths, felonious force against officers and criminal conduct cases resulting from use of force by those officers. To clarify the number of shootings that the CPOA has not reviewed, all of these cases, by the way, have been reviewed by the multi-agency task force. So for the calendar year 2015, there are 10 officer-involved shootings to be reviewed. In 2016, there are 6. 2017, there are 8. 2018, there are 10. And so far this year, there are 6. Now, while we do have a long way to go to help lower crime and to make sure that we're meeting our obligations under the CASA, the department is being fully transparent. It is more transparent now than it has ever been. And the department will continue to be transparent throughout this process to ensure that the public is fully informed about what is going on. So with that, thank you all for your time this evening.
Don't leave, I have a question.
No, it's okay, I'm not planning on it.
I bet you're not surprised. All of that is great and necessary, and I support all the efforts that have happened under this new administration, with the exception of the fact that everything you've just said did not include civilian review. It has not yet involved civilian review, which is our part of the CASA. And so it is important, at least as far as we understand from the Department of Justice, and from the city and from APD, that there be civilian review. When we asked about that at last month's meeting, Ms. Van Meter said the following. She said that she wasn't sure how far the backlog was. Mr. Harness told me today it was 83 cases of use of force or officer-involved shooting cases. That is the backlog. So it's more than what you just said added up to. But she also said that the Department of Justice and the city were going to decide which of those backlog cases would be reviewed by us, implying that it would not be all of them. And that is of a concern to us. And I think that's the concern you heard in the article, and that's the concern you're hearing from the editorial board. There is been a long push in the 5 years I've been involved in this to make sure we had a seat at the table, to make sure that we were, and like I said, I will give you all due credit for this new administration and it being better by far. Of course, it couldn't have been worse, just saying. But it is really important that we are clear that if we are not going to get all of the cases in the backlog at some point, the process is great, but it has to include us. If there is no civilian review, then the CASA has not been met. So we have backlog cases. We're not sure now what we're going to get or who's going to make that call. None of that is okay. And so if you'd like to tell me more about that, I'm happy to hear it. But that's the genesis of that article and of the editorial.
Madam Vice Chair, tell you more about what? Specifically?
When are we going to see, and how is the decision going to be made, what backlog cases we're going to see? Who's making that call, and based on what?
Well, I
We
will
were to see all of them. That is what the ordinance said. That's what the CASA says. We're to see all of them. And now we're hearing we're not going to see all of them.
Madam Vice Chair, I'm going to defer to Ms. Van Meter. She's been directly handling this situation, but I do want to say that we agree with you that civilian oversight is a critical component, just like the force review process. And under no circumstances is this department or this administration or our office attempting in any way to shut out this body or any interested members of the community from either participating or educating themselves through the policy development process or through the review process. So I will pass it over to Ms. Van Meter to address those specifics, but I want to be clear that that we have not only no intention of shutting you out, but fully involving you in every way. My understanding is that we're not there yet because the process is still being developed. And it's important that it gets done right, and I understand the board's frustration.
And I think the board, to be fair, I think the board has been very patient to this point. We've heard the FRB story. Forestry Review Board is being built for over a year. That's a long time, sir. We'd like to know when's the end of that road?
I don't disagree with you on that, and I understand. It's coming. It's there, but I'll defer to
You'll
the
excuse
chair.
me, but I've heard that before. Ms. Van Meter.
I want to clarify that it's not that the city and the Department of Justice are going to decide which cases that this board gets to review. The city and the Department of Justice are working together to come up with a plan to present to the monitoring team as to which cases in the backlog, whether it'll be all of them, which it may be, or whether it will be a part of them, that the FRB reviews. Just because the FRB doesn't review cases doesn't mean there's been any discussion thus far of whether that would prevent the CPOA from looking at those cases. So that is the discussion that is still occurring at this point in time. We would absolutely be willing to sit down at the table with the board to discuss if and when we get to the point of proposing fewer than all cases being reviewed by the FRB, what that means for the CPOA board. If the CPOA board is interested in hearing them all, that is certainly something that's important to be discussed at that point in time.
So is it true, given the ordinance, that we could audit all those cases? If, once the FRB has reviewed them, we could choose, no matter what else is decided, to audit those cases. Is that true?
I need to double check the ordinance, but you do have audit powers, yes.
Thank you.
Over internal affairs investigations, yes.
Does anybody else on the board have anything to add? Thank you.
Thank you all.
I assume that was the update. That was item D.
If you would like any more information, the monitoring report should be published the first week of November, and we intend to request a hearing during the site visit the third week of November.
Okay. And we have a meeting coming up with the amici, isn't it, coming up October,
The third week of October,
the
yes.
third week of October, okay. CPCs. Good evening, sir. Thank you for being here and your patience.
Thank you. Good evening, Vice Chair Fine Board. Just a quick update. October 19th, the CPCs are going to have their final strategic planning meeting. That's going to be where they wrap up and do what they worked on for the last few months. One of them is outreach, and the other thing is trying to increase diversity on the board, and the last thing is branding. And on the 17th, Director Harness is going to be the speaker at the Southeast CPC. I believe that's correct. October 24th, the Valley CPC is going to have an active shooter training. That's going to be at Johnny Tapia Community Center. That starts at 6 o'clock. And finally, the Northeast CPC, with the help of other CPCs, are having a domestic violence forum. And that's going to take place Saturday, October 26th at 11 a.m. It'll last until 2. It's at the African American Performing Arts Center. Dorothy Woodward from the Northeast CPC will be sending you all invitations and flyers to attend. And that's all I have today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
APOA. Mr. Harness.
Good evening again, Madam Chair. To answer the inquiries of members Van Deventer, Olivas, and Armijo Pruitt. 3-33, the Performance Evaluation and Management System, was at PPRB on the 24th of July. It came to the board on the 26th of July, and it is currently in the resolution phase of the policy development process. I mention that because it's in the context of administratively closed cases and their effect on officers. In discussions with Commander Velarde, moving forward, the system, this PEM system, which is APD's acronym for an early intervention system, which tracks officer behavior. Once that new system comes online, administratively closed cases will stay on an officer's record. Unfounded cases will be removed from the officer's record.
Good.
For tracking purposes. So that will affect our outcomes for how we produce findings in certain instances. So where previously we would have had an admin closed case, we will do an unfounded. Commander Velarde has told me that the monitoring team is allowing them to unfound cases without interviewing the officers. If the preliminary investigation finds, like we do now for an admin closed, we can simply do that same preliminary investigation and have an unfounded when we have an officer that is named.
Is the same true for exonerated? I would assume it is.
No, during the conversation, it was only the unfoundeds that would be removed from, I can clarify it again, but in the discussions.
Does that make sense to you, that they would pick one and not the other?
I don't know. Exonerated is the conduct happened, but it did not violate policy.
Okay,
So
okay, I get it.
I
That's
mean,
enough.
once it comes online, once we finally get the resolution draft, then we'll have a more concrete answers.
Okay.
Regarding the mediation, on September 30th, I met with Attorney Van Meter, and we discussed bringing back mediation. I provided electronic copies of the motion, previous motion filed with the court by the city, and the MOU. And so Ms. Van Meter will draft those documents and get them to the court. I don't have a date at this point.
Do you expect when you'll hear back? Do you know how long it will take?
I don't at this point.
A month, 2 months, 3 months?
I will check back with her before the next
Let us
meeting.
know.
We have identified 4 candidates to interview for the investigator position. And those interviews will probably take place week after next. We had 103 applicants for the admin position. That field has been narrowed to 30, and we're going to try to narrow that to an even smaller number before we offer interviews. The abbreviated Citizens Police Academy is currently unavailable.
For how long?
Probably forever. The chief has identified the sections of the full Citizens Police Academy that he deems necessary for CPOA board members and CPC members to attend. So I will get a copy of that list, and when those sections are offered when those sessions are being offered during this current Citizens Police Academy. And hopefully, member Armio Pruitt can attend some of those. And then there will be another Citizens Police Academy, which will commence in March, and then she can pick up the rest of the required sessions through that. The chief stated that with the use of force training that's going on and the other modules of training, he doesn't have the staff to facilitate the Citizens Police Academy abbreviated session over 2 weekends.
How consistent is the chief's assessment of what's necessary in that 12-week class? How does that align with what we had given feedback on in terms of our view of it?
Vice Chair Fine, I haven't seen the list yet, so I don't know
Okay.
that.
So you're going to report to us next month on that?
Yes.
Okay.
On the 14th of October, I'm doing a presentation to the National Federation of Press Women. On Monday, October 20th, I will present the 3rd quarterly report to City Council. Wednesday, October 23rd is the 8th round of a Miki meeting with APD at the U.S. Attorney's Office at
9 o'clock.
9 a.m. Per your request, I provided the board with draft copies of APD policies 3-41 and 3-46. Level 2 use of force training is being conducted now at the Academy through January. 3 days, 10 hours a day. The DOJ and the U.S. Attorney's Office were there monitoring that training last week. And I believe, as stated prior, if board members want to monitor that training, you can go through me and we can make those arrangements with Commander Byrd.
May I ask Dr. Cass, has anybody from policy gone to that training to follow up? Not that you're.
No, not that I know of. When was this initiated? When did they start their training? That level 2, the level 2 use of force?
Vice Chair Fine, Member Dr. Cass, I believe it's only been the last 3 or 4 weeks that level 2 has started.
Go ahead.
Office of Policy Analysis since the last board meeting. There was 1-53, the homicide unit, 1-66, missing persons unit, 2-60, preliminary and follow-up investigations, 2-64, identification and interviewing and detention of witnesses, 2-56, victim witness assistance, 2-67, photographic array and field identifications, 2-68, interviews and interrogations. 2-8, on-body recording device was taken off of the OPA agenda yesterday.
Do you know why?
Vice Chair Fine, I do not. It was just stated as unforeseen circumstances. PPRB, I voted to move the following policies along. 1-16, auto theft unit. 2-49, inspection of motor vehicles. 3-31, physical fitness testing and training. 3-32, employee work plan. 1-39, DWI section. 2-86, investigation of property crimes. 2-88, bait car. That ends my report. I stand for questions.
Any questions?
So just to clarify, you, in your initial statement, you said that we basically should expect to see more unfounded cases and fewer administratively closed because of that change agreement sort of that you made with Commander Velarde?
Yes, Vice Chair Fine, Member Olivas, yes. When we have an officer that has been identified and is named, and when we use the same standard for minimally substantiate, in this case, we will change that to unfounded and not do an administratively closed. So I would expect that you would see, as you anticipate, more unfoundeds as opposed to administratively closed.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harness. Community Outreach Subcommittee, Valerie and I had a great meeting with the people from the Commission for the Deaf and the Hard of Hearing. The Outreach Committee is going to different populations that may have issues with law enforcement because of barriers to service. And we learned a lot. It was a very interesting visit, and we learned how intense the interpreter certification is and how it relates to legal issues for people. Obviously, communication is an important part of law enforcement, and in this particular case, the rules that affect law enforcement are outlined, and everybody else for that matter, are outlined in the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. So there are some concerns. The good news is that this administration of APD has assigned Lieutenant Simmons to be the point of contact with the Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. And they have seen some real benefits, some real positive motion, and they're looking forward to more. They have some really good plans, and they shared those plans with us. One of the things that we were interested in is what kind of contract does the police department have with to help them when they encounter someone who is either deaf or hard of hearing. And they have a contract. The concern on the part of the commission is that they may not have enough people, that the way the contracts work and the way that providers provide that service, they may not always have somebody available. And so I'm just here to report that the outreach was done. It was successful. We learned some things. We heard, I learned that hard of hearing is the appropriate term and not hearing impaired. So that was a good education for me. And so I just wanted to report on that. We are going to be reporting in the next months different populations that we will be going to reach out. So we also shared with them a lot of complaint forms and information and walked through the process of how somebody could get that. They're obviously in a good place to get that information to people who are deaf or hard of hearing. So that's my report, and our next meeting is October 22nd.
Chair Fine.
Yes.
I have a question for Mr. Harness, and I might have asked you this before. Do we get complaints from the city jail? Do we get any complaints from them?
Vice Chair Fine, Member Waits, yes, you have asked me this before. And we do occasionally get complaints from the jail, yes.
Okay, all right. And the reason I ask that is, as far as outreach and those type of things, that might be another area that, we could reach out to, because they need a voice too, and I'm not sure if they have access to Director Harness like everyone else does, but we can at least give them the information. Thank you.
So to be clear, the city jail is different from MDC, which is run by the county. So we wouldn't do it at MDC. We would do it at the city jail. Is that what you mean? It's the same. Oh, I thought that you were talking about like the prisoner transport, that there was something downtown as well. No, you're talking about MDC. MDC is run by the county.
I'm talking about jail. Whichever, the city, the county, I know the county has a jail.
Perhaps I could clarify.
Clarify.
Vice Chair Fine, Member Waits. Yes, we don't have jurisdiction over those facilities. However, many of their occupants have had contact with APD, so those are the complaints that we get.
Okay.
And do you know if there was complaint forms that have gone out there, or anybody's done that? Should outreach look at that?
That was my suggestion after asking him that question.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, we'll bring that up in outreach the next time. Good idea. Policy and procedure.
The Policy and Procedure Subcommittee met on October 3rd, and we approved several recommendations, which the letters are written for and are attached to the agenda. Because we don't have a quorum, of course, we won't consider those, so that's essentially the report. So our next meeting is November 7th.
That's right. Case review subcommittee, since Mrs. St. John is not here, I'm on that committee, and we met on September 24th. Obviously, we can't vote on any of the cases. We are continue to be concerned about not having serious use of force and officer-involved shooting cases, as we've discussed. But our next meeting is October 22nd, and then the Personnel Committee, I understand, did not meet. Is that correct?
That's correct. I can give the Personnel Committee
Okay,
report.
thank you.
It did not meet, and there were a couple of items that were on the agenda that I think, you know, as a result of not meeting, of course, we couldn't discuss those. One of those items is to have a facilitated discussion between the board and the agency, and this has been in the works for several months. I brought this up at the last meeting, and I think I would like to keep pushing, even though we can't take action on this tonight. I would just like to remind the members who are present that there is a plan that exists. I think we can, as soon as we can meet as a full board and approve this, we could get started on that process. And I think it's an important process, and I don't want it to fall by the wayside because we cancel meetings. So,
Ms. Segala, can you make sure that that is on the agenda for next time as a discussion item on, not just under the Personnel Subcommittee, but just as an item for discussion by the board, is an update and a facilitated conversation on this for the staff and the board? As a discussion item? Yeah. Yes, sir.
I also I sit on the Personnel Subcommittee, and I made this motion to the full board, which was approved a couple of months ago now, and it's sitting on our to-do list there in the Personnel Committee, which involves taking a look at the Executive Director's evaluation process. That's one of our few statutory authorities, and having not been able to meet last month, we obviously couldn't discuss that, but I just wanted to remind the full board that that is an item that sits in that committee, and I think personally it's a very important item because that's one of our only jobs. So hopefully we can finalize that and get something to the full board next month. I believe we gave it a 3-month time period.
Okay. So do you want to make sure that's on the Personnel Subcommittee report?
Yeah.
Can we do that?
we can do that.
Okay. I don't know, Director Harness, perhaps you can tell me, is your evaluation from the last evaluation we did, has it been finalized with you? Because I don't know.
Vice Chair Fine, no, it has not.
Okay, so do we know what the holdup is on that?
I've started inquiring into what other process might exist within the city and haven't made very much progress. So it's still up in the air. We're still working on that.
So the executive director's finalizing his evaluation should be on the agenda for next time? For personnel, as well as the item that Mr. Olivas just brought
Yeah, I
up.
believe that's a Personnel Committee that decides that
okay,
agenda.
so
right.
it would just all be listed under personnel. Okay. Is the same thing true for the training, the facilitated conversation? Should that be under personnel as well, or a separate discussion item?
I believe that we ought to have it as a potential action item on, take action on
Okay.
at the next meeting, and have it on the agenda under its own item.
Okay. So done. Anybody have any questions, any other business that we can discuss? Our next board meeting is November 14th, 2019 at 5 o'clock in this room. And there being no other questions, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you for your patience. You never know. Be prepared, but.